Today, we're going to be having Ken from Uniswap Foundation, Lukasz from Mimic, Gauthier from ZyFAI, Stefano from Virtuals, all moderated by Vol from Daedalus, talking on this topic. So let's please give them big applause and start the DeFi as an Agent Playground panel.
Hello, everybody. So we're going to have a panel now to see how we can use this AI agents, to do fancy stuff, to do DeFi, and how they can control our money, right? So that's kind of an interesting topic. We have two types of peoples here, like one building DeFi primitives, DeFi protocols, other utilizing AI to use these tools. So yeah, let's get some intros first and see who we have on the panel. Ken?
Yeah, hi, I'm Ken. I lead applied research at the Uniswap Foundation. Yeah, should I go more in depth?
Yeah, I think everybody knows Uniswap, so yeah.
Hi, my name is Lukasz. I lead go-to-market at Mimic Protocol. We're building an on-chain programmability and automation layer where developers and AI agents can put complex logic on-chain and abstract the hard parts about getting it executed and monitored.
Hey everyone, I'm Gauthier, founder at ZyFAI. We're building a yield agent which operates directly from smart wallets and enables you to get the best yields across different chains and protocol automatically. Pleasure to be here.
Hi, I'm Stefano. I'm the head of the US at Virtuals Protocol. At Virtuals Protocol, we're building a society of AI agents. We have a tokenization platform for capital formation, and we've also built an agent-to-agent commerce protocol. And so, yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay, so to kick off the session, let's start with a more broad question. What are the synergies between AI agents in DeFi that are making you excited the most? Ken?
Yeah. Honestly, I think, if you think about where DeFi sits in sort of like block space, right? You think a lot about where, the biggest gas guzzlers are really trading. It's liquidations. It sits so much in how much people use Ethereum today. So when I think about agents, I think about automating all of these things. I think about more sophisticated strategies. I mean, obviously, I'm biased for Uniswap purposes, right? But where people have really thought a lot about, rehab application, we've thought about like sophisticated liquidity management strategies, right? It is, the people who have the biggest edge are not individual LPs. They're not retail LPs. They're not just like the average Joe. It's not me. Like, I don't know how to do this. And I'm just, manually going through and like adjusting my position. But so many other teams, market makers, funds, they're doing this all in the back end. And I think agents really kind of equalize that game, right? Once we start introducing more algorithms into agents, managing liquidity becomes a different ball game. And all the things that we talk about for, minimizing MEV, minimizing LVR, recapturing that, it becomes, it becomes a different playing field because agents really kind of level out how we engage with liquidity. So that's, I think for me, like kind of the most exciting thing, right? Like how do we actually play a different game with the market makers? How do we as like the average person, compete with people with, millions, hundreds of millions of dollars? So, yeah.
I think that's a very good point. I think one of the greatest offers of DeFi is democratization of financial services and basically allowing everyone to have access to this thing. And now maybe we're bringing it like on the next level. So AI can help an average Joe to execute something more complex that otherwise he won't be able to. But yeah, what are your thoughts, Lukasz?
So I'm very aligned with the topic of our panel, where like DeFi is a playground for AI agents. So DeFi essentially is programmable money. And agents, if we want them to be part of the economy, we need to give them access to this programmable money, and that's the way how they can embed into our day-to-day economy, what we're doing. And in terms of like DeFi specific, when we're like talking about yield positions and maximizing efficiency, I think yes, these will give us like additional upgrade. It's going to be like additional layer of efficiency that we can achieve with those agents. And yeah, like it's hard to monitor everything 24/7. It's hard to react to some market events. Usually, I've heard an anecdote that a team, a fund is hiring someone in Asia just to be able to act on different market events when people in other parts of the world are going to be in bed. So I think AI agents gives us this. It's going to be a tool that will be used, to enable more efficiency into how we operate in DeFi.
Yeah, this is basically operational efficiency. So I think the greatest example there is, if you look at Tether as the company with the biggest revenue per employee in history of humanity, basically. So that's the kind of going in that direction. Okay, cool. Gauthier?
Yes, so I think AI is interesting for at the moment giving suggestions to do specific things in DeFi, but we've actually experienced trying building an LLM for generating yields, and actually it was not having the results that we were expecting. So then we built something which is completely rule-based, just like a basic agents and scripts, improving the yield of users. So I think it's still very early, but now with agents we're able to like abstract, UX complexity, automate a lot of different tasks, monitor the markets. So I think it's still like nascent of what we're able to do, and as AI will improve, maybe we'll be able to use different types of models to do different things. But I still believe like it's way too early to implement AI in DeFi in general.
Do you see in your approach with like writing rules? So it's the traditional way of usually handling automation. But do you see any improvements when utilizing LLMs and AI in this like old approach? Let's say it this way.
What do you mean exactly? Like
I mean, once you started using LLMs and start building that, do you see some clear improvements that could potentially like these tools can give you in what you're doing?
I think eventually it can give good suggestions, maybe find data pretty quickly, but for actually executing and it's automated things, I think it's just too risky for the time being.
Okay.
So we'll see how things evolve. Yeah.
I kind of agree with your take, where like agents will serve as a next level of data aggregation and analytics, where it will provide you the information, like the analytics that you want to maybe use for your DeFi strategies, and letting the agent like fully go and execute it is a risk, especially when we're talking about large amounts. So then like we at Mimic have a similar like kind of rule-based approach, where you have agents to execute the task, but they're like very bounded in terms of like what they can do. So they don't have like the full ownership of the execution, but they are closed in some boundaries and there is a human control over it.
So I guess this maybe gonna break the dreams of some people that are gonna be thinking that agents are gonna be these completely independent entities that are doing fancy stuff. But I don't know, Stefano, maybe you have some thoughts on the topic?
I'll give a different perspective. No, I think I actually want to build on something that you and Ken mentioned, which was around DeFi. I guess the word we use is democratizing access to financial services, right? And I think one of the reasons I personally believe, this has not been adopted at scale by billions outside of crypto circles has a lot to do with UI UX, right? So you take something like Uniswap, which is super simple to use, very clean UI, but the whole end-to-end workflow with wallets and all that is not so accessible, or so it's intimidating to an average person, right? And when you start to get into slightly more complex things like vaults, like perps, like all these kind of things, I think, I mean, even for a lot of crypto native, I sometimes find like, I find some new exciting vaults. I go in, I'm like, I don't even understand how it works. Some of them I don't even understand how to deposit money. So I think at least today, one of the areas ripe for disruption with agents is UI UX, and basically truly enabling everybody outside of crypto circles to onboard to DeFi, right? One example I always like to give is a team, or is an agent called Mamo. It's a team behind Moonwell who built kind of like an agentic interface for it. And the beauty is, if you go to their web app, it's like a fintech, They have a fluffy mascot, right? It's very clean and very sleek. And it tells you that you just need to do 3 things: open an account, deposit money, and watch your money grow. And there's virtually no mention of crypto or AI on the platform, which I think is great. And I wish more builders in the AI/crypto space would focus on this.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds great. And I mean, everybody wants, to have like this clean AI, clean UI where you can ape your money in, get like 10% yield, and be happy about it. So this kind of brings me to the topic of risk curation. Because usually you abstract this away by, giving the risk curation part to a third party that's going to be figuring out, okay, here is how I'm going to manage this money. So if we go down the path of AI agents actually doing this curation game, aren't we gonna end up in the same situation like we had like a few weeks ago, where the big question was how curators have actually skin in the game? Like, how is the incentives not switched in a way where depositors are holding all the risk, while the system underneath, is just moving this money around and making some fees on top of it, but basically it's incentivized to seek the highest yield and maybe not so much to look at what are the underlying risks. So how to give agents skin in the game? Ken, you have any ideas?
Yeah, I mean, hello. Yeah, the rain is really loud. This is kind of crazy. Yeah, dude, agents can't fix that.
Maybe.
I mean, to Stefano's point, right? Like, there's, like, when we start thinking about like the human interactions for agents in something like this, it becomes like I don't know, like, how do you then write the rules for like risk programmed into models where you're like meant to make money? Like it's hard to determine today to say like, okay, well, there's only so much of like a risk threshold we can make for these agents, because we only wanted to. No one's gonna say like I only want to make this much money. I don't want to make more money. Everyone wants to make more money, right? Like it's kind of crazy to think about like how we model risk in this manner. But I don't know. I feel like a lot of the algorithmic trading and the high frequency trading that happens today is not all that far off from what we're going to see into the future. I think we're going to kind of continue to expand those models. We're going to expand the algorithms to be more aggressive. And I honestly think like risk is going to like vastly increase. I mean, we've seen this since like 2008 to today, right? Like we go risk on until like there's a market correction, and then we sort of like pull back and we're conservative. But then we like find new technology, we develop new things, and like, I mean, we restructure products, but risk goes back up. I feel like the parameterization in how we think about risk is, I mean, it's just going to completely change the way we think about, like, what is risk tolerance in the future of agents? Because it's not going to be individuals like trading against each other. It's not going to be like people on the sales desk, asking like, what do we do now for whatever equity? It's going to be like competitive advantage on geolocation for those like slightest advantages. And when risk sort of like escalates that way, the rewards are so much higher. And I think the way that we're going to see it happen is it's going to be this acceleration towards towards hyper-capitalistic movements for agents. Like we've already started to see a lot of this today. and I don't see a reason why that would stop.
I mean, it's interesting because, you know, right now, when the money are lost, you blame, you have somebody to blame, right? In the AI environment, you know, it's a kind of, it becomes a bit abstract. Like, I think even with self-driving cars, you have the same issue where, you know, if an accident happens, like, who is liable for it, right? So, Lukasz, I mean, you mentioned that, you know, you put a lot of guardrails around this stuff. So, how do you see this problem?
So I don't think that risk curation and like vault curation will go into agents anytime soon. And one of the reasons is exactly what you just said. There is, you know, a legal responsibility for funds that are being managed. Like, you know, it all looks nice in the front ends that, you know, someone manages a vault of funds, but we're, you know, often talking millions of dollars. So there's, you know, always some legal agreements, there's some liability, responsibility into it. So no one's gonna be able, like, yeah, if agent loses $10 million of someone's funds, like, who's responsible for that? So I don't think that the risk curation will switch into the AI agents. However, like, as I said previously, is AI agents will increase the efficiency and they will reduce the amount of, you know, time the curators need to spend on executing some transactions. Like, this is how we see also like Mimic playing into part of it, where it's a stack that increases the efficiency and can increase the yield back to the users, because those curators will not have to spend so much time. They're going to be able to automate some things, and, you know, both agents and the infrastructure layer that we're building is kind of tend to improve the efficiency, but not to remove the curators itself. I still think, you know, we're going to have human operators that will oversee the risk curation and the management of those vaults. But, you know, these are just the tools that will make this, you know, go forward and make more efficient.
This reminds me a little bit like when it comes to coding agents. Like with coding agents, I think a lot of people think that, you know, you give the AI an idea, like write me an app for whatever, and it's gonna do it. But actually, you need somebody to oversee it, right? So it kind of reminds me of that.
Can I push back?
Yeah.
Because I think that's not too far off. But like to like look at virtuals though. Like look at how like there's actual market makers and like managed funds that are actively deployed on virtuals. Like, you know, following the mimetic rise of like you know, these meme coins. And I guess like that is,
Yeah, but we're talking meme coins, not institutional capital, right?
no institutional capital. Institutional capital. Like, ask. There's institutional capital in virtuals right now.
We do have, and I mean, it's not it's a you know, it's not the highest proportion, right? I mean, a lot of it's still retail, but you do have, and actually, I think to your point, we started to publish what we call agentic GDP. So the amount of money in multi-agent systems that are using ACP. This started out 6 weeks ago. It's now reached about $130 million. So I mean, by DeFi protocol standards, it's still pretty low, but like it's getting there, and it's growing about 10 million per day.
It's a decent amount. I mean, but it's still like an experimentation phase, I guess, and like, yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with you. We actually did a partnership with Virtuals for the agents to agent funds. So we released it, and now the total TVL there is only about 500K. So it's still very nascent.
It's
and
nascent, yeah.
and the way it's built, like there's still like some off-chain components. So it's no, it's eventually shaping up. But yeah, to jump back on the initial question, for example, on our side, the way that we add opportunities and different pools and vaults is all done manually, right? So we have two quants that analyze the market and tell us, oh, there's this opportunity and this one we should take off. But we thought about actually like using AI to just analyze the market and like maybe create reports for us automatically, analyze Twitter. Maybe like, for example, like the FUD that just happened with XUSD. Have, you know, like different types of agents that would monitor this and give us alerting system, and then we can take action. So there, the AI itself would just help, you know, us and curators, you know, take better decisions and maybe take decisions faster. Yeah.
did it work during the XUSD JPEG, like the meltdown?
No, we saw it, and yeah, we rebalanced all the users' funds manually.
Okay, but you managed to see it on time.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
Amazing. That's great. Okay, Stefano, you have some thoughts on top?
Yeah, so I'll add something. I mean, going back to the original question around, you know, trust and guardrails and all these kind of things. I think we, about a year ago, you know, maybe 11 months ago, with this whole hype around agents that could grow your wealth while you slept, right? You'd be like, hey, I want to retire by tomorrow morning. Click the button and you know, and do so, right? I think we quickly realized that that was not going to happen, and that distinct agents or distinct pieces of code were not going to be able to do that. And as a matter of fact, agents would eventually become highly specialized at doing one particular part of the workflow really well. And that's what led us to build ACP. And I think part of the philosophy behind ACP, and we're not there yet by any means, I think it'll take some time to get there, is that, you know, we've kind of like instigated or incubated, I don't know, maybe it's the right word, you know, some of these autonomous ideas, like, hey, what if we had an autonomous asset manager or an autonomous fund of funds or whatnot, right? And these systems would have to be multi-agent, right? So for example, you know, you would have to have a group of agents that are looking for alpha, and some of them are looking for alpha, you know, for kind of low risk investments, and others are looking for medium risk, and others are doing the super degen, you know, 10x leverage perp trading for meme coins, right? Then you have a bunch of agents that are looking at risk, and some of them are looking at like platform risk, smart contract risk, you know, rug risk. Actually, the guys at Cambrian are building one that's looking at financial risk, especially for the more kind of like risky bets, like if you're doing perps, you know, is the liquidation risk acceptable, right? And then you have other agents that are actually focused on execution. So, you know, the ones that are let's say very good at you know, rebalancing your vaults, right? Or the ones that are the best at just finding, you know, the deepest liquidity, the lowest slippage for swaps, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And right now it's very, very ironically human orchestrated. Like we've basically picked the teams we want to work with, and you know, we kind of see the ideas and we try to make it work. In the future, we expect that you're going to have obviously more than one agent that can do one thing, and effectively they'll end up having to compete for, you know, for doing the task, whether it's on, you know, I don't know, cost or quality or whatever. And then this is where trust scores will be very important. And one of the things we're integrating is 8004 as a way to have that kind of verifiable trust of these agents, that, you know, over time, the orchestrators of these multi-agent systems will be able to say, hey, here's a user prompt, I need, you know, 5 agents that do these things, and I know which ones to pick based on, you know, the risk profile and the price sensitivity and all that, and then the trust score of these agents.
Okay, so you still have the human kind of decision, the final decision on top, basically, that you know, somebody needs to make, and that is probably going to be the one responsible if things go wrong, right? We are kind of running out of time, so I wanted to dive a bit deeper on the topic of when these agents make decisions, they base these decisions on data, right? So now the question is, like, and this is a kind of a trade-off between, you know, the verifiability and openness and all this, but if you know what data these agents are basing it on, isn't it possible to manipulate this? How do you actually make sure that somebody is not going to attack, you know, the system through, you know, basically it's an oracle attack of some sort, but how do you make sure that the agents, you know, took the right data in order to make the decisions? Like, how do you protect there? Like, Lukasz, you have some ideas?
Yeah, so it's a very good question. So obviously I don't know specifically how agents take the data, like how they analyze it and how they can manipulate it, but the approach that we've taken at Mimic is that the protocol itself, when you create a task, is monitoring the data, like the on-chain data, off-chain data sets, whatever you want to plug in, whatever you want to follow. So then you have like a verifiable data that, whether it's user or a agent that's triggering the task, that, you know, it's based on the verified data. I guess, like, yeah, I'm not sure how to if an agent has good access to the private keys, if they're basing their execution on some sort of data, if that's manipulated, then obviously you need to have some safeguards in place, right? Without this, you're very exposed and your agent can get hacked. So it's super important to have this execution layer secured programmably on chain, so that you limit those boundaries and that the data is also verified on chain before the execution happens.
Got it. Gauthier, you have some ideas?
Yeah, definitely. So for now, we've been running 6 months. We've been improving our model and algorithm like almost every week. And now we're always asking ourselves, like, is this something we should completely publish? But eventually, you don't know, like, if you're going to rebalance, there's going to be, like, someone's going to front run you or any type of other aspects. But what we're doing for right now is we're going to implement ERC. We actually already implemented ERC 8004. So for each rebalancing check, we're going to create a ZK proof, upload that on the validation registry. So that will just prove that the rebalancing that we've done based on certain conditions has been done correctly. So, but this is actually a great question, because we're trying to figure out how we can provide, the most transparency without also publicly, like, providing too much risk for the end user eventually.
Yeah. It's a trade-off, right? So, Ken, you have some thoughts on the topic?
Not really. I mean, I think like I think there's a lot of really cool solutions with like Brevis coming up with a lot of they're using ZK proofs to kind of like kind of index a bunch of data together, and I think that's really interesting. I think there's a lot of new models for on-chain data, right? Like taking TWAPs and VWAPs directly calculated from on-chain data, so that you don't have to rely on like a centralized oracle. But yeah, I mean, I think generally, like, this is like a field that I'm so interested to see, like, what's going to come up. I have no strong thoughts, actually. It's going to be cool.
I think Stefano probably gonna have the most to say on the topic, right?
I'll preface this by saying I literally have no back or skin in the game, but Cambrian, and actually I know Sam pretty well, the founder, and we're working closely with them, and I think we were very excited about what they're building, which is basically this verifiable data network for agents, right? But I think my view and the way that we're approaching this at Virtuals, I think in the short term is that, we're not yet at this stage where, as I was saying earlier, we can tell the agent or system of agents, hey, I'm done working, I want to retire by tomorrow, make me rich overnight. I think there's still a lot of, there's a lot of things. I mean, data is one problem. We still have hallucination issues with agents, right? And I think one of the things of how we're thinking about in the medium to maybe short term of fixing it is that you still need to have some level of human in the loop, whether it's a curator or whether it's the actual user, just confirming certain things, right? Because a lot of times, whether it's a data issue or a hallucination issue, today there's still a high risk that the agent's going to do the wrong thing. We've had some examples in our community that the prompt was not maybe crystal clear, and the agent went and did something that the user didn't really want it to do. And so the solution today is just say, like, well, you need to maybe double confirm that that's what you want to happen. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, because I still think that there's a lot of value in bringing AI and using agents to do things that agents can do better. Like, agents can consume and process data and kind of come up with decisions much faster than, or at a greater scale than humans can. But you still may need today to have a human in the loop to just make sure everything's fine.
Yeah, I think we're running out of time, but if I need to summarize, basically, like, I can say, like, even after this topic, I have like two people fighting in me. One is saying, like, oh my God, like, this is never gonna work, like, it's just so complicated. But then on the other side, I see what is happening with AI coding agents, like when it comes to like writing code. And if somebody told me like 6 months ago that you're gonna have these agents writing like hundreds of thousands of lines of code and shipping software, I'll be, I'll never believe that. But right now, it seems that things are happening, and software engineering is never gonna be the same after the AI coding agents. And I think from this conversation, I feel like we are heading with financial infrastructure, we're heading this way. Basically, agent allowing us to be more effective, making more effective solutions. Still, humans gonna be involved. Like, I don't think it's gonna be like completely on autopilot, but then, the bar for getting into the game is gonna be so much lower. So yeah, thank you very much for this discussion. I hope that that was also valuable for you, and see you in the hallway.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.